The night air over Bravos tasted of salt and coal smoke, and Arya Stark, though she had long since let the name lie dormant in the tidal pools of her memory, breathed it as though swallowing the sea itself. Lanterns drifted along the canals like fallen stars, each halo reflected in the water's black glass, wavering, stretching, then snapping back again with the rhythm of a silent tide. She stood on the lip of an arched stone bridge, cloaked in the plain brown habit of an acolyte of the House of Black and White. But beneath the wool her heart beat a northern cadence no faceless mask could stifle. She whispered the roll of syllables she allowed herself each dusk, testing them against the hush. Cersei Lannister, Ilyn Payne, Meryn Trant, Walder Frey, Polliver, Raff the Sweetling, the Tickler, Joffrey Baratheon, Ser Gregor Clegane. A prayer, a catechism, a chain. Yet in the months since she had been welcomed back into the house, after blindness, begging, bruises and bones that ached beneath every assumed skin, another litany had unfolded behind her eyes. It lacked the heat of vengeance. It thrummed instead with the cool precision of assignment. The kindly man had never spoken it aloud, but she heard it each time the black door closed and the candle was snuffed. The list was a map, not of the wrongs committed against her blood, but of an intricate design whose lines curved beyond any single life. Tonight, the design shifted. She felt it the way a wolf senses the tremor of distant hooves through snow-packed earth. Somewhere in the labyrinth of Bravosian alleyways, a bell tolled. Swift, light. Twice only, and she knew it was the summons. She crossed the bridge without seeming to move, melting among stevedores hauling tar-stinking nets, among courtesans in purple silks and wine-flushed bravos, who laughed too loudly at the edge of duel. Every face she wore at that moment belonged to someone watching her pass. The trick was not the mask, but the mirror. The House of Black and White rose ahead, squat and stern, its twin doors dark as eclipsed moons. A single boat rocked on a tether beneath the quay, oarlocks creaking. Beside it waited a figure swathed in grays so light they were almost smoke. "An evening for dead things," the figure said. Voice neither woman nor man. "Every evening," Arya replied, because the response was lesson, and lesson was survival. "Come," the figure murmured. "The many-faced god opens new eyes this night." They rode in silence, the canals narrowing until warehouse walls climbed so close overhead, the sky became a ribbon. When the boat thudded against a moss-slick ladder, Arya climbed first, palms sure on iron rungs. Above, the warehouse yawned, a cathedral of rote-sweet timber and dust-suspended moonlight. Piles of crates formed a maze. Puddles glimmered on warped planks. Rats fled as she passed. In the nave of that shadowed place stood Jaqen H'ghar. Or perhaps the kindly man had borrowed his smile again. With the faceless men, certainty was a luxury. His hair was the color of milk poured into blood, half red, half white, as if the strands warded upon his scalp. "A girl has remembered the song she never learned," he said. "A girl serves. Then she may know why the song was etched upon her heart, from the first day she spoke the names." He lifted a lantern. In its amber sphere hovered motes like sleeping fireflies, illuminating a scroll clasped by a wax seal, impressed with the symbol of a coin balanced upon a dagger. She recognized neither sigil nor seal. "The list you cherish," Jaqen continued, "was planted as seed before your father's head left its stump. Those names were chosen not by the wolf girl, but by the god, and by those who serve his deeper purpose." Arya felt the ground tilt. "You mean?" "Think, not speak. Words freeze truth too quickly. You have hunted your own ghosts, little sister of shadows, yet the path you tread serves more than taste for vengeance. Each death you crave situates another brick in a wall the temple erects, one unseen, one necessary." He handed her the scroll. The wax split with a soft sigh as she unrolled parchment fine enough to show light through skin. Ink formed a diagram, concentric circles, names etched upon spokes like the ticks of a sundial. At the center glimmered a sigil she did know, a many-harmed star, the symbol of the faith of the Seven. "I don't." The faith has grown fat, Jaqen said. Its mouth devours coin and kingdom alike. But rot begins at the soft heart, masked by piety. 10 hearts, to be precise. Remove them, the structure collapses. Your list intersects 7 of those 10. Coincidence is a childish cloak. You were guided. Arya's pulse rang in her ears. You use me. We all are used, as we use others. Such is the bargain when names become prayers. The scroll's outer ring bore fresh ink, 3 names unspoken in her nightly chant. They were meaningless to her eyes, yet the tremor in Jaqen's voice told her they mattered more than crowns. Beneath them, a timeline unfurled, 3 moons only, to weave from Bravos to King's Landing and back, leaving no thread visible. I am to go home, she whispered. Half prayer, half curse. Home is a face you must wear convincingly, yet discard the moment it impedes the mission. He produced a small wooden box, unlatched it. Inside lay 3 faces, tanned like cured leather, featureless until the light caught them, and her own reflection bloomed across each, as if the skins drank her soul. She reached, hesitating. The first, Jaqen said, belongs to a Lycene servant girl. The second to a matron of the Silent Sisters. The third, he paused, eyes glinting. The third will require courage, for it is the face of Arya Stark. She recoiled. I can't wear my own face. Can you? No. Ask not what flesh you inherit, but what story you sell to its audience. The girl who is no one must learn. Identity is the sharpest blade, and the one most apt to turn in the wielder's hand. Nando. The lantern guttered, throwing walls into upheaved night. When light returned, Jaqen was gone. Only the faces remained, and the scroll with its wheel of doom. The Bravosi dawn arrived shy, beneath smudged clouds. Arya spent it upon the rooftop of an abandoned counting house, seated cross-legged, breathing until the thrum of harbor bells faded behind breath's tidal hush. She sifted memory for the taste of snowdrifts, the texture of horsehair cloaks, her father's voice describing the difference between justice and vengeance. She examined each sensation, then set it aside like a healer discarding spoiled leeches. When she rose, the girl called Arya wore silence. Her first face fit snug as truth. The Lycene servant girl, all moon-pale cheeks and shy, down-tilted gaze. She boarded the Summer Flower, a cog bound first for Pentos, then King's Landing, bearing casks of arbor gold and bolts of Myrish lace. Sailors ignored her. Nobles saw only a wisp too plain to notice. She scrubbed decks, fetched wine, and at night studied constellations while muttering the new names. Sir Balin Hightower, Septa Eliane, and the strangest of all, Pate the Pidge Boy. Each name, Jaqen had said, was a rivet in the skeleton of a grand deception. Remove a rivet, the beast collapses. The faith's gilded septs hid secrets. Smuggling routes, clandestine vaults, ledgers of coin funneled from Bravosi magisters to the High Septon's privy purse. Choke those conduits, the Iron Throne would gasp for breath, and Bravos would tighten the purse strings of war. But none of that mattered to the servant girl swabbing brine. She thought instead of Walder Frey's laugh gurgling into stillness, of Meryn Trant's glazed eyes, of the gleam of steel singing through necks undeserving of song. Those memories warmed her like a hearth in a blizzard. At Pentos, she disembarked, traded coin her masters had supplied for a mule and rough-spun cloak. The road to the Hippo Gate wound through olive groves and chalk cliffs bleached under merciless sun. She rode by night, sleeping by day in ruins older than dragonglass. Caves whispered of carrion bats. Once in dreams she felt Nymeria's mind brush hers, feral, distant, curious before vanishing like smoke. 2 weeks later, she entered King's Landing, disguised as a ragged Campi follower, trailing sellswards from the disputed lands. The city smelled of summer rot, tanneries, and desperation. Its gates were choked with pilgrims come to pray beneath the great sept of Baelor, newly reconstructed in marble white as bone and 3 times as gaudy. The High Septon, this new one rumored to bleed wine rather than water, had proclaimed a jubilee of absolution. For the price of a copper star, sin could be scrubbed clean. Copper flowed, gold followed, and beneath it, rumor said, ran a darker tributary. Weapons, sellswords, bartered vows. The faith armed itself for whatever storm brewed across the sea. ARYA slipped through the crush, fingers light as rumors on purse strings. She acquired clothing of finer thread, a silver hairpin, a sprig of seasilk perfume that masked the stink of fish market. By dusk, she strode the hill of Rainies as Septa Eliane, matron of novices in the orphanarium adjoining the septi. The wool habit scratched her shoulders. The heavy crystal around her neck reflected sunset into gilt shards. She found Balin Hightower in the cloister garden, pacing among statues of the Seven. He was younger than she expected, a bull-shouldered knight with oil-black hair and eyes rimmed red from sleepless dread. He prayed aloud while counting beads. "Mother, grant me mercy. Father, grant me judgment." Each plea sounded like an apology. ARYA waited behind a granite maiden draped in vines. When the knight knelt, she stepped forward, folded hands. "Sir Balin." She said, voice pitched low and nurturing. "Your burden may be eased." He startled, half drew steel, then recognized the habit and swallowed panic. "I spoke no burden, sister. Confession lies heavy upon your brow." "Shall we walk?" They paced beneath colonnades where pigeons dozed. Balin confessed in pieces. He had discovered crates of raw dragonglass in the crypt under the sept, bound for Old Town by secret bark. The High Septon planned to barter them to maesters, forging potions that could rupture flesh and flame, without spark or ember. Balin feared plague, war, the wrath of gods. ARYA listened, mirrored compassion. Truth must be guided into light. She intoned, quoting scripture. When he nodded, relief pooling in his gaze, she pressed a vial of pale liquid into his gauntlet. "In darkness, we light the way." He drank, trusting salvation. Moments later, his pulse slowed, eyes glazing as though snow settled across the garden. She eased him onto a bench, arranged his hands in benediction. An hour hence novices would find a venerable knight succumb to exhaustion, a warning perhaps, against secrets kept. The first rivet gone. She shed the septa's guise that night, burying robe and crystals in a midden heap. The poorer districts offered spirals of alley where rumor ran quicker than water. Here, she donned the face of Pate the Pidge Boy. Freckles, crooked teeth, hair wheat blonde and filthy. He was a ghost born from tavern smoke, a creature no one saw until he spilled ale on their breeches. She found the real Pate snoring in a wine sink near Flea Bottom, pressed a coin of Valyrian steel between his lips, and unmade him with a whisper. As Pat, she drifted into the undercrypt of the sept through grates that stank of drowned rats. The dragonglass crates waited, guarded by 2 poor fellows. They laughed at the sight of a pidge boy. Their laughter ended in silence broken only by the shatter of obsidian under torchlight. She smashed each shard to dust, scattering it across stagnant water. When moonlight slivered through floor grates above, she was gone, leaving only broken crates and wet footprints already drying. 2 rivets gone. Only Septa Eliane herself remained. Yet when ARYA returned to the orphanarium, she discovered the septa had vanished. "Summoned," a novice muttered, "to a retreat in the Riverlands. A trap, or stroke of luck, she could not know. So instead of striking a target, she became it. Wearing Eliane's face again, she penned letters, sweet with sanctity, to minor septs across the Crownlands. A call for account books, for ledgers showing flows of coin to this jubilee. Weeks passed within that guise, and with each scroll unrolled, she pieced together networks. Iron bank loans disguised as alms. Sell contracts inked with wine that dried blood-brown. A ledger of tithes routed west to Casterly Rock in chests, marked for widows' dowries. She balanced figures by candlelight while orphans dreamed beyond thin walls. Guilt pricked. These children were no rivets, only life's debris. Yet she could not unspool the web without brushing their fragile strands. So she taught them Bravosi songs, sleight-of-hand tricks, the art of seeing by listening. And one night, an older girl, Kat, revealed that Septa Eliane had planned to sell several orphans to a Lysine pillow house to fund fresh marble for a side chapel. That, ARYA decided, was sufficient confession. She led Kat and 4 younger children into the vault of stored linens. There, behind crates of altar wine, lay a door leading into the warren of smugglers' tunnels that spider-webbed beneath the city. She gifted Kat a purse of silver culled from Eliane's own drawer, and whispered the directions to the mudgate, where Bravosi captains bartered favor for coin. "Find the summer flower," she said. "Tell the quartermaster, Valardo Harris. He will take you to Bravos." Kat's eyes shone like storm lanterns. "Who are you?" "No one," ARYA replied, and kissed her brow with lips that were not her own. When dawn tinged the sky, ARYA prepared a chalice of prayer wine and waited in the sept's inner library. She drank deeply, swallowing a draught, laced to still her heartbeats within 12. She arranged herself at the scriptorium table, quill in hand, scroll half written. The novices would find Septa Eliane thus: a weary servant called home by the mother's gentle hand. Rivet 3. Gone without violence. The wheel groaned. She traveled north in secret, adopting faces like breaths. A minstrel with fingers nimble on lute strings. A pox-scarred mercenary scavenging battlefield corpses. A silent sister driving a corpse cart. Each guise moved her nearer Winterfell not by road, but by the currents of rumor. In taverns she heard talk of the young wolf's ghost. Of Sansa Stark ruling with quiet iron beside a king crowned of northern frost. She felt pride flare, then fought it down. Pride belonged to ARYA, and ARYA was now but one of many weapons. Near Maidenpool, she woke from wolf dreams so vivid her hands smelled of rabbit blood and wet earth. Nymeria's pack had grown vast, prowling riverbanks like a living tempest. She wondered if, when the hour came, she could summon them, not for vengeance, but to guard what might be rebuilt when the wheel finally shattered. For the hidden truth unfurled slowly in her mind as petals of a ghostly flower. The faceless men sought not coin from the faith, nor simple destabilization. They sought balance. And balance, in a realm racked by dragons and prophets, required silence to fall upon voices that screeched loudest. If the faith's secret weapons failed, Westeros might endure long enough to find peace among its own broken pieces. Yet another realization struck, colder than another's sigh. The plan demanded Arya Stark remain ghost, never girl reborn. Her list, her prayer, the faces she had worn, they were all threads in a tapestry whose final image did not include her. The mission's success meant her own erasure. On a windswept ridge overlooking the Trident, she watched dawn bleed across water bronze as a blade. She knelt, pressed fingers into mud, and whispered every name, old and new, into stone-still air. Tears cut tracks through grime. She did not wipe them away. They were honest, therefore useful, only as fuel. When the sun rose fully, he turned south once more, for one last face awaited. That of Arya Stark, returned home to die so the realm might live. Winterfell's walls loomed gray-white against dark pine. Smoke spiraled from chimney stacks. Banners snapped bearing direwolf and falcon, for the Vale's knights had sworn to Sansa's regency. Arya passed beneath those banners, disguised as a grizzled sellsword from Gulltown, wounded at the Wyke and seeking alms. No guards troubled her. War had bred too many such ghosts. But at dusk she slipped into the Godswood, heart hammering. Snow clung to branches, Moonlight silvered every needle. The heart tree watched, bleeding sap down a face older than kingdoms. She knelt. "I am no one," she said, though the words faltered. "I am—" Footsteps crunched. She spun, knife drawn. Sansa Stark stood at the clearing's edge, cloaked in direwolf fur, torch in hand. The firelight painted copper glints in her hair. Her eyes widened, not in fear but in recognition so sharp it cleaved the night. ARYA. The name was a sword driven through illusion. ARYA felt masks shatter, faces slipping like melting ice. In that moment she was girl, wolf, assassin, servant, and orphan together. Too many selves vying for a single heartbeat. Sansa approached slowly. I hoped you yet lived, but the ravens—" She swallowed. Tears pooled, reflecting torch glare. ARYA could not breathe. The mission screamed in her skull. Complete the design, vanish. Yet here stood the sister who had once brushed horsehair from her cloak, who had cried beside father's grave. Could she kill this witness? Could she fade while Sansa's voice wove her back into flesh? "Tell me what they did to you," Sansa whispered. "Tell me how to help." ARYA lowered the knife. "No one can." "Then let me try." The godswood held its breath. Somewhere distant, a direwolf howled, a deep, mournful note. Perhaps ghost, perhaps Nymeria's dream echo. In its wake, silence returned. ARYA felt the scroll's wheel burn against her ribs where she kept it bound in oilskin. The circles of ink seemed to pulse, urging completion. One last thread, then oblivion. But blood is thread too. She met Sansa's gaze, and in it saw not a mission, but a promise broken across years of pain, that Starks would stand together against all storms. Balance could not be measured merely in ledgers of death. It might require lives preserved, names left unwritten on any list. She took the scroll, pressed it into Sansa's hand. "Burn this," she said. "If you trust me, burn it, and forget you ever saw me." Sansa's fingers tightened. "What is it?" "Danger. Knowledge that kills. Destroy it, and the faith schemes unravel. Keep it, and they will hunt you until light itself fades." Sansa's jaw set. "Then I will keep it safe, and we will face them together." ARYA shook her head. "Together makes us target. I must leave. I must be no one. You are Arya Stark." "I was. But if I stay that girl, too many will die." Wind hissed through pine, scattering snow in silver flurries. Sansa stepped forward, closing the distance. She touched Arya's cheek, gentle, firm. "You once said the pack survives. Do you still believe it?" Arya closed her eyes. Memories rose. Robb laughing in the yard, Bran climbing towers, Jon ruffling her hair. All ghosts. "Yes," she breathed. "Then don't walk alone." Footsteps sounded beyond the trees. Armor's soft clink. Brienne of Tarth emerged, sword sheathed but hand ready. Torchlight etched determination across her scarred cheek. When she saw Arya, relief and steel warred in her gaze. Sansa spoke to Brienne without looking away from Arya. "Fetch Master Luwin. Tell him Lady Arya has returned and requires the hospitality of Winterfell." Arya wanted to protest, to vanish into snow. But the godswood, the heart tree, the torch in her sister's hand, all held her fast. Perhaps the balance could be served by a different road, one not paved in faces stolen. She nodded. Once. Later that night, alone in a chamber above the great hall, Arya unfolded a fresh sheet of parchment. She dipped quill in ink black as the House of Black and White's doors, and she wrote a single name, Arya Stark. Then, beneath it, 3 words that glimmered like frost in sunrise. "No one lives." She folded the page, set it atop the coals of the hearth, and watched flame devour ink. As the parchment curled, the letters distorted, bleeding into sparks. The last ember winked out, and with it, Arya felt a mask slough from bone. Not discarded, but reborn into something truer. A girl forged by many faces yet, claimed finally by her own, no longer weapon alone, but wielder. She turned to the window. Beyond lay miles of forest, rivers, bastions of faith and fear. The list was not gone. It merely changed shape, like a blade tempered anew. In the moon pool of Bravos, another bell would toll. They would send someone to find the wayward acolyte, to reclaim the faces she had borrowed. Let them come, she thought. Wolves know the woods better than any pilgrim of death. She smiled. Not cold, not bitter, but sharp as starlight, and whispered into the dark. A girl is someone. The wind carried her words beyond Winterfell's walls, where they tangled with snow and starlight, and the distant, ancient song of the north. Somewhere, a direwolf howled again, and this time the note was not mourning but promise, long, low, and unafraid. Oh, ka. Snow muffled the world beyond Winterfell's stones, but inside the keep the night rang with quiet motion. A hearth's faint hiss, the tremor of banners stirring in unseen drafts, the distant clatter of a cook's ladle striking iron. Arya sat cross-legged on the floor of the chamber Sansa had chosen for her, palms open upon her knees, breathing until each exhale blurred with candle smoke that drifted toward the rafters. She wore a simple tunic of gray wool, borrowed boots, no steel. Ghost stretched beside her, white fur shimmering in lamplight. The direwolf had appeared at dawn with Joan's blessing carried in a scrap of parchment, now tucked safe beneath her pillow. His crimson eyes watched the door, but his ear twitched toward the window, where moon-silhouetted pines whispered like restless spirits. She had not slept. The hourglass on the mantel wept sand in measured sighs, and every grain reminded her that Bravos would send its reply. A debt existed now between Arya Stark and the House of Black and White, a bond measured in faces and secrets. She could not pay it by hiding. Yet if she left, Winterfell might again fall into hands eager for Stark blood. Her fingers traced the knotted string around her wrist. 9 loops, one for each name she had taken with steel or poison. The string served as memory and warning. The many-faced god granted gifts, but each gift forged a chain. She wondered how many links remained before the weight dragged her beneath the tide. A soft rap sounded. Ghost's head rose, throat rumbling. Arya touched his shoulder, and the growl sank to a hush. The door creaked open, revealing Sansa lit by hallway torches. She entered slowly, bearing a tray of bread, goat cheese, and elderflower tea. The steam carried a scent of home, unchanged since childhood. "I know you said you weren't hungry," Sansa murmured. "But I also know that's usually a lie." Arya flicked a smile. "You always knew how to make me eat. And you always pretended not to care." Sansa set the tray on a stool. "The maester says you're in good health, though he was puzzled by—" She gestured vaguely to the wrist string, to half-healed bruises along Arya's ribs. "Old stories," Arya said. "I'd like to hear them, all of them, in time." "Time on?" The word tasted fragile. "There may not be much of it." Sansa lifted her chin, the gesture echoing their mother's quiet authority. "We will make time. The North stands stronger than when you left, and together we're stronger still. Whatever hunts you will find we are not sheep." Arya's gaze flicked to Ghost. "Sheep have teeth, it seems." Sansa managed to laugh, though worry rimmed her eyes. "Lord Royce arrives tomorrow with 600 men. The Vale pledged swords to our banners. Brienne patrols the walls twice each night. If assassins come, they'll face more than quiet corridors. Then it doesn't take corridors." Arya's voice thinned. "A cup, a kiss, a borrowed face is all they need." Sansa's fingers found Arya's hand. "Then we keep our cups guarded, and let no strangers cross the threshold without scrutiny. I'd post guards within, but you said you needed privacy too." She searched for the word. "To remember who I am," Arya supplied. Sansa studied her. "Do you know, Arya? Truly?" Arya considered the question while the candle breathed low. "A girl of 10, chasing cats in Red Keep tunnels. A wolf, dreaming in Nymeria's pelt. A blind beggar listening for heartbeats in Bravostad. A servant, a sister, a killer. Each identity felt like a thread, and she the needle meant to bind them. I know enough to fight. Then fight alongside me." Sansa tightened her grip. "The North needs every Stark. We need more than swords. Arya hesitated. We need truths. I uncovered rot within the faith. If their schemes grow unchecked, dragons and armies will pale beside their fire. Then reveal the scheme to the Lord's declarant. Let us present proof to the crown. Done? The crown changed thrice since father died. Arya shook her head. Proof means nothing to men who profit by ignorance. She remembered the ledger lines, the crates of dragon glass, the high septon's jubilee. But a blade in the right heart can still rewrite history. Sansa's eyes hardened. That is not justice. It may be survival. Ghost growled again, rising abruptly. His nose pointed toward the hearth, then the window, as if scent swirling from two directions at once. Arya pivoted, sliding the small dragon glass dagger she kept beneath her boot. The window latch jiggled, once, twice, then stilled. They waited. Nothing. Arya crossed to the sill, threw shutters wide. A rush of icy night spilled in, but the courtyard below lay empty save for swirling snow. She scanned rooftops, arrow slits, shadows behind chimney stacks. No motion. No footprints on the fresh dusting of white. When she shut the window, Ghost had calmed, but his hackles remained stiff as bristles. Sansa hugged her arms. Perhaps a raven. Perhaps. Arya knelt beside the direwolf, scratching behind his ear. She whispered, Valyrian words meant to bind loyalty, though Ghost cared only for the melody. He licked her cheek, then resumed guard, sprawling before the door. Sansa straightened. I'll double sentries. You should rest. Rest when daylight gives lie to darkness, Arya replied. Her sister lingered, then departed, closing the door with reluctant click. Alone again, Arya settled by the hearth. Flames licked low. Embers glowed like coals of memory. She closed her eyes, breathing deep, and called across a gulf of sleeping minds. Nymeria. The name vibrated down unseen leashes of blood and soul. Somewhere miles distant, paws thudded on frost-hard earth. A wolf's awareness brushed hers. Hunger, vigilance, recognition. Pack. Arya fed back an image. Winterfell's towers, snowy ramparts, the heart tree stretching limbs into star-salted night. Come. Danger. Guard home. The resonance rippled away. Nymeria understood. She opened her eyes to find the fire nearly out. She rose, added logs. As sparks flared, they cast momentary shapes like faces glimpsed in water. Jaqen smiling, the kindly man's blind stare, the Lysine girl, Septa Eliane. Each face demanded reckoning. She whispered Valar Morghulis beneath her breath, and watched sparks die. Morning bled into sky behind veils of pearl cloud. Arya spent the gray hours training. She moved through forms she had learned from Sirio and the Waif, from hound and sparrow, from shadows that had no language but murder. Her wooden practice sword kissed empty air. Her feet barely scuffed rushes. Ghosts circled her, mirroring steps. At dawn's full blush, Arya felt a tickle of breath on her neck. She spun, blade slicing. The point halted half an inch before the throat of a boy no more than 10, hair raven black, cheeks wind-chafed. He did not flinch. The boy held out a folded scrap of parchment, sealed by mottled wax. For you, he said, voice monotone. Arya snatched the note, eyes roving the hall. No one else. Who sent you? Man with a silver mask. The boy blinked slowly, pupils dilated as if drugged. He gave a copper to show me the way out after. Arya's stomach nodded. She cracked the seal. Inside, in Braavosi cipher, etched with crabbed strokes, 3 words unfurled. We are coming. No signature. None needed. She seized the boy's shoulders. Did he touch you? Give you anything else? He shook his head, seeming confused. Then his eyes rolled. His knees buckled. Arya caught him, lowering him gently. Pulse, faint. She checked pupils, pinprick narrow, poison. She cursed softly, lifted him, and carried him to Maester Luwin. The Maester, gray-haired and grave, administered milk of poppy laced with foxglove tincture to slow the poison's creep. He frowned at ARYA's explanation but asked no questions. Still, the castle buzzed with rumor. A stranger with a silver mask, a poisoned boy, a stark girl tangling with ghosts. Sansa convened council in the solar that afternoon. Lords Glover and Manderley, bronze-armed Lady Alice Karstark, and Lord Jan Royce crowded benches. Brienne stood sentinel, oathkeeper gleaming. Arya entered quietly. Sansa indicated a chair beside her. "My sister brings word of an assassination plot rooted in the faith." She scanned faces hardened by war and winter. "She has evidence. More may seek to silence her." Then too. Arya withdrew a bundle. Scraps of ledgers, confessions pulled from Septa Elian's desk. The charred remains of a manifest she had half memorized. She laid pieces like bones on the table. Lords leaned close, mouths grim. Lord Manderley stroked his beard. "The faith has long meddled, but this speaks of alchemy, forbidden arts. A weapon to unseat crowns," Arya said. "You saw what wildfire wrought. Imagine stone that burns like the sun in your palm. Dragon glass powdered fine mixed with certain oils." Royce grunted. "Alchemy or no, why strike the north? We have no seps worth sacking." "Then I'm shotty a wall." Arya tapped a margin note, referencing White Harbor's trade routes. "Because the north reclaims independence under Stark rule. If we stand, others may rise. The faith seeks chaos to gather flock beneath frightened wings." Lady Karstark folded arms. "How soon?" "They're already moving. And my former associates will arrive first to erase knowledge of this threat." Arya felt eyes dissect her, parsing the weight of associates. Lord Glover frowned. "Bravosi cutthroats." "Worse," she said. "They wear any face." "Kill without trace." Silence settled like morning frost on corpses. Sansa's voice matched steel. "We must tighten guard, seal wells, test every cup. Maester Lewin will oversee tastings. Brienne will assign trusted knights inside the keep. We'll station archers on roofs with torches trained on every approach." Lord Manderley sighed. "Even so, how fight what we cannot see?" Arya placed a small mirror on the table. "By seeing first," she explained. "Reflective surfaces in halls, corners, under doorframes to catch glimpses of impostors. Secret knock codes changing each watch. Dogs in corridors. They know scent masks cannot hide. And ravens on constant watch. Any stranger approaching Winterfell flagged from miles." Royce nodded grimly. "We have dogs aplenty. And my falconers keep sharp-eyed tiercels." Brienne leaned toward Arya. "If they come for you, bait them. We seize one, force confession." Sansa shook her head. "Confession from a faceless man? I'd swallow poison before speak." "Perhaps," Arya murmured. "Or perhaps I speak their language." That night the castle transformed. Mirrors gleamed behind sconces. Hounds padded between patrollers. Archers crouched atop battlements with lanterns shuttered. Snow fell heavier, blanketing tracks, muting sounds, but flames along the walls flickered resolute. Arya prowled halls, senses stretched taut. She wore her own face, yet beneath a cowl she carried two others. The Lysine servant and Pate. She would not put them on, but she kept them as shields if innocence must be feigned. In the crypts beneath Winterfell, torches guttered dim over stone kings of winter. Arya descended alone near midnight, ghost-like painting reliefs of direwolves at their lord's feet. She stood before her father's effigy, traced stone fingers, whispered apology for the masks worn. The blood spilled. Soft footfalls echoed behind. Arya gripped needle-thin dagger, turning slow. Brienne emerged, helmet tucked beneath arm. "Didn't mean to disturb you," she said softly. "Sansa worries. The dead keep better counsel than the living sometimes." Brienne glanced at the statues. "I find no comfort in crypts. Too many regrets." Regret keeps us human. ARYA sheathed dagger. Will you guard Sansa tonight? 2 men and I stand watch at her door. I wish to check perimeter. She looked at ARYA's shadowed eyes. Come above. You'll need rest before dawn. I'll come. ARYA allowed the night to lead her up. As they reached Stairs Crown, a gust blew out Brienne's torch. Darkness swallowed them. Brienne cursed softly, striking flint. Sparks flurried, revealing a woman's face. Brienne's. Then another flicker revealed Brienne still but slightly misaligned, as if her head lagged behind body. ARYA's pulse snapped. She stepped back. The torch caught. Yellow light spilled. Brienne's face smoothed into familiar scarred contours. Perhaps trick of shadow. They parted at corridor's fork. ARYA's chamber door loomed, guarded by 2 Mormont spears. Ghost rose inside, muzzle at the crack. She slept minutes at a time, heart attuned for shifts in silence. Snow tapered near dawn. Gray light seeped around shutters. She rose, donned leather jerkin, strapped dagger. When she opened door, the Mormont guards were gone. Their spears leaned against wall. A dark smear streaked floor. She knelt. Blood. Tacky dry, maybe an hour old. Ghost snarled. ARYA sprinted toward Sansa's quarters, Ghost loping ahead. Hall corners mirrored, glimpsed nothing but flicker. At Sansa's door, 2 knights slumped. Royce men, throats slit. Oathkeeper lay unsheathed, but Brienne nowhere. Sansa's door gaped open. Inside drapes fluttered. Window wide. No Sansa. ARYA lunged to ledge. Below, fresh prints in snow. 1 pair heavy, the other lighter. Staggered, as if prisoner dragged. Marks led toward the godswood. Arrows whistled. Archers cried challenge. ARYA vaulted wall. Sliding down snowy bank. She followed trail beneath towers, Ghost bounding ahead. In godswood, prints vanished amid churned snow. Heart tree loomed. Wind hissed, scattering powder. ARYA slowed, senses fanning. A figure knelt at tree's roots. Sansa's copper hair spilled. Brienne stood behind, sword poised at sister's spine. No, Brienne, yet her eyes black pits, her stance wrong. ARYA drew dagger. Step away from her. The false Brienne smiled, and the smile was Jaqen's. A girl is tardy. Sansa's hands bound, cloth gag. Tears bright on cheeks, yet gaze steel. ARYA's voice was blade. Release her. I stand in her stead. Meanwhile, Jaqen's borrowed face tilted. A debt is owed. Lives given, faces taken. Come willingly and debt may settle. You broke sanctuary, ARYA hissed. This place is old as your god. Our god is older than wood and ice. No place forbids his breath. Ghost growled, circling left. Jaqen's eyes flicked, but he kept blade near Sansa's throat. A slim Braavosi stiletto. ARYA eased forward. Let her go. I'll return. I'll bring the scroll. The house needs it. The house already holds its copy, he said. You hold only a lie. Charred fragments meaningless. Yet betrayal tastes bitter. The house demands face for face, name for name. Menawana. Sansa mumbled behind gag. ARYA's pulse hammered, measuring distance. 10 feet between, dagger in hand, Ghost flanking. Trees offered cover, but Brienne's height, Jaqen inside Brienne, made reach long. You want my face, ARYA said. Take it. She dropped to knees, tossing dagger aside. Spare her. Sansa cried protest, muffled. Jaqen approached cautious, point leveled. Snowflakes dusted his borrowed armor. Kneel, and close eyes. Ghost tensed to leap. ARYA sent a silent push. Wait. She knelt. Closed eyes. Heard crunch of snow. Felt blade barely tap chin upward. Jaqen leaned near, breath warm, scented of mint leaf. Detail she'd remember. A girl has chosen mercy, he whispered. Perhaps she remembers the god. ARYA's right hand buried in snow. Fingers curled around nothing. She breathed once. Flicked wrist. Snow burst. Hidden dragonglass shard whipped upward, burying in Jack and Brienne's left thigh where armor gapped. He jerked, blade slashing. ARYA rolled, snatched stiletto as it swept overhead. She came up inside his guard, driving pommel to jaw. Ghost launched, fangs clamping forearm. Jacquin's face rippled. Brief flicker of Brienne to a gaunt stranger to the kindly man, then back. Illusion shattered by pain. He elbowed Ghost, kicked ARYA. She caught foot, twisted. He fell. Sansa scrambled away, gag off. ARYA called, "Run." Sansa bolted toward castle. ARYA faced assassin. Blood-soaked snow from thigh wound, yet he rose fluid, unsheathing hidden blade. They circled. "You forget lessons," he rasped. "I learn new ones from wolves." She answered. They clashed. Steel ringing dull where snow swallowed sound. He feinted high, low, spinning with Brienne's brute strength. ARYA parried, sliding dagger along his edge. Sparks falling. Ghost harried flanks, forcing him to guard multiple fronts. ARYA waited for tell. His wound slowed left leg. She drove feint, left then reversed, carving right hamstring. He sagged. She slammed hilt into temple. His head struck tree trunk. The face of Brienne sloughed like wet paint, peeling to reveal another beneath. Smooth, hairless, eyes infinitesimal black. He hissed Valyrian curse, tried to rise. ARYA placed knee on chest, blade to throat. "Valar Morghulis. Valar Dohaeris," he whispered. She pressed, but hesitated. To kill him meant severing one final tie, yet inviting retribution, unending. To spare risked pursuit anew. He read doubt. "Spare me, and I speak true. House will recall debt paid. Many faced God pleased by struggle, not end. Liar, taught. Perhaps. But choose. Wolf girl or servant of death." Ghost growled, breath vapor curling. ARYA leaned close. "Tell the house the debt is settled. If they come again, I flay their god of every face." She slammed pommel into his brow. His eyes rolled, unconscious. She bound his wrists, tore Brienne's surcoat to gag, dragged him to ice-chained pond at Grove's edge. She cut a branch, wedged between arms and back. Peasant's yoke, ensuring he could not touch mouth. Then she hauled him through snow toward gatehouse. Sentries gasped when they saw Brienne seemingly bound. ARYA barked order. Not Brienne. Assassin wearing her face. Take him to cellars, iron shackles, posted guard of men who knew Brienne intimately. He cannot fool them. The true Brienne stumbled toward them from courtyard, blood on brow. "He overpowered me," she panted. "Forgive." ARYA embraced her. "Your courage bought time." They secured the attacker downstairs, iron mask clamped. Maester inspected wound. Poison coated his blade, but none spilled. He lived, barely. Council reconvened midday, Sansa presiding, ARYA silent sentinel. They debated. Ransom assassin back to Bravos, execute. Trade for peace. ARYA argued death yields only another face. Royce advised sending him to Night's Watch. Faceless among exiles. Glover favored hanging. While tongues wagged, ARYA visited cell. The assassin woke as she entered, eyes flat as winter sky. She crouched. "I need answers. Give them, and I grant a swifter end." He smiled through iron bars. "No answers remain. Your path fixed the hour you spoke your first name. Now walk it. You underestimate Starks. We heed only God." He closed eyes. ARYA left, anger coiled. Outside, snow melted beneath pale sun. Water trickled off roofs. That evening ravens arrived from White Harbor and the Erie. Reports of masked killers infiltrating keeps. Faith emissaries offering aid then slaughtering hosts. Chaos blooming. ARYA felt pattern. Cut communications, sow distrust, leave realm craving unity under faith. She met Sansa in Solar. Scrolls cluttered desk, wax still hot from seals. Sansa's shoulders sagged yet eyes fierce. They strike everywhere. We can't guard all allies. We strike at head, Arya said. King's Landing. No. Old Town. The Citadel weaves knowledge. The faith leans on maesters. Arya pointed to ledger scrap referencing dragonglass shipments to the Hightower. Remove that nexus. Starve them of alchemy, prophecy, ravens. Sansa rubbed temples. Old Town is months south. Armies can't march before thaw. 2 riders can. 2. Arya nodded. You hold north. I ride with Brienne. We'll infiltrate, sabotage the deposits, reveal the faith's plot to maesters who still value truth. Done now. Sansa protested yet saw logic. You'll need horses swift as the wind. And coin. A dragon's hoard. Arya smirked. I know where Lannister gold lies idle. She insisted on leaving at dawn. That night she visited Crypt once more. Ghost padded beside. She knelt before Lyanna's statue, laid offering. String from her wrist, 9 knots undone. I am both wolf and shadow, she whispered. Watch over me. Footsteps cautious approached. Jon, face lined by burden. They embraced under candle glow. No words bridged gulf. They spoke through grip of arms. When they parted, Jon pressed dagger of northern steel into her palm. Bring it home, he said. Dawn blossomed pink. Brienne awaited in yard, plate replaced by lighter brigandine. Horses stamped breath plumes. Arya mounted a dapple gray mare, Ghost trotting behind like silent banner. Sansa handed small satchel. Bread, dried berries, vial of Maester Luwin's strongest anti-venom. She touched Arya's cheek. The pack survives. Arya smiled. And the lone wolf dies. She wheeled horse, galloped through gate into white horizon. They rode south along King's Road flanked by pines crusted with ice. Ravens followed overhead like omens. Each league carried them toward conflict older than kingship. The clash of gods cloaked as men. Arya felt faces waiting in distance. Some she would wear. Some she would unmask. Some she would consign to snow-churned night. On the second evening they camped near Queen's Crown ruins. Brienne sharpened Oathkeeper. Arya studied map by lantern. She marked secret trails learned from Brotherhood without banners. Smuggler caches along Honeywine, hideouts of faceless spies disguised as poor fellows. Brienne caught her gaze. You saved Lady Sansa at risk to realm. Why? Because Sansa is realm, Arya answered. Without people we love, what's left to save? Brienne considered, nodding. Then we'll shield love with steel. Sleep came fitful. Arya dreamed of the house of black and white. She walked its hall, candles flickering along shelves of faces. She reached for one etched with Joan's smile. The face melted to reveal her own, then father's, then none. She woke, breathing steely air, hand on dagger. Weeks passed. Fords crossed, towns skirted. News traveled slower than winter wind, yet whispers reached ears. Northern trade stalled. Faith militias clashing with lords in crownlands. High Septon proclaiming vision of Seven's wrath upon heretics of snow. Arya quickened pace. Near Highgarden they encountered refugee columns. Small folk fleeing Septons who demanded tithes of grain and daughters. Brienne offered escort to a meadow where Tyrell banners once flew. There, Arya distributed stolen Lannister coins to buy safe passage west. Word of 2 women aiding poor under direwolf sigil spread, and soon riders pursued. One dawn, crossbow bolts peppered pines. Brienne's shield caught 2, but a third grazed Arya's arm on. She left blood trail, but used it to lure pursuers into bog where peat swallowed horses. She and Brienne vanished among reeds. At night's fire, Brienne wrapped Arya's wound. You court danger boldly. It courts me, Arya quipped. They reached the northern bank of the Honeywine as spring thaw began greening fields. Old Town's high tower speared sky like candle aflame. Bells tolled, gulls screamed. Ships cluttered harbor with faith banners, 7-pointed stars flapping. Arya and Brienne traded armor for merchant garb. Salt-stained cloaks, straw hats. Arya darkened hair with walnut dye. Brienne concealed height beneath hunched posture. They rented skiff, rowed upriver into labyrinth wharfs, overshadowed by citadel's spires. Night-cloaked movement. They scuttled through alley to portico of the starry sept, now headquarters of militant faith. ARYA studied guard patterns. Inside, crates rolled by lay monks reeked of brimstone, dragon-glass powder mixture, stored in barrels branded with both seven-pointed star and alchemist sun. Plan required sabotage. Barrels ignited in controlled blast to destroy stockpile, yet spare city. She needed fluxstone charges, a cunning mixture learned in Bravos. She lacked materials but remembered Maester's labs within Citadel. They scaled wall where ivy-aged centuries gripped mortar. Inside courtyard, apprentice Maesters crossed clutching scrolls. ARYA adopted shambling gait, hunching like novice. Brienne remained at perimeter ready to sever escape route. ARYA located alchemy wing, pilfered flask of wildfire stabilizer, sacks of iron filings. In scriptorium, she forged requisition slip, using sigil of Archmaester Valen. With supplies in satchel, she slipped out but encountered a maester, whose spectacles magnified suspicion. "What business at this hour?" he demanded. ARYA stammered accent of Dornish pupil. "Archmaester requests demonstration of blast ratio compared to dragonglass mixture." "Show slip." She presented forged parchment. The maester squinted. "Valen's mark changed last moon. You copy old seal." ARYA struck heel upward into his chin, caught him as he fell, eased bloodied head onto flagstone. She hissed regret, bound his wrists, gagged, and moved. At docks behind sept, she positioned barrels onto keel of small levee boat. She drilled hole, inserted fuse line wound along dock post into shallow fire pit. She coated rope and stabilizer. Atop powder, she laid metal shards to magnify destruction. Before lighting, she carved into hull, Valar Morghulis. Meanwhile, Brienne rallied sympathetic dockhands with coin. They arrayed water buckets to douse fires should blaze spread. She waited at safe distance inside abandoned granary. ARYA struck flint at Moon Peak. Fuse hissed, spark crawling. She sprinted, leaped onto mooring post, rolled behind stone seawall. Heart hammered. She counted. 1, 2, 3. A soundless white flash erupted. Then thunder cracked sky, sending gulls erupting. Shockwave rippled water, shattering sept-stained glass into glittering rain. Flames licked masts, yet harbor-wide remained calm, water dousing stray sparks. ARYA sighed relief. Controlled enough. Chaos exploded. Bells, shouts, faith militants rushing. She slipped among them disguised as injured dockhand, soot-smeared. She heard cries, vault destroyed, sacred weapon lost, saboteurs flee. The faith's supply of dragonglass incinerated, war machine stalled. She found Brienne. They blended into exodus of citizens fleeing possible retaliation. Outside city walls by dawn, they rode east along riverbank. Hearts light. 2 days later, ravens soared overhead, not black, but white. Citadel's call for conclave. Word spread. High Septon's secret arsenal perished. Maesters demanded inquiry. Faith's authority cracked. Lords reconsidered allegiance. En road north, ARYA sensed watchers. She and Brienne took refuge under oak roots near crossroads. 3 shapes emerged, cloaked figures wearing expressionless wooden masks, Bravosi steel glinting. ARYA rose. Send only 3? Insult. 1 step forward, voice reedy. A girl shames house. House erases shame. House can try. She slid Joan's dagger free. Brienne hefted Oathkeeper. Battle ignited under moon. Ghost lunged from brush. Fangs ripping calf. ARYA danced among trees, steel whispering. Masked killer swift but predictable in forms she once drilled. She parried high thrust, drove pommel to throat, carved artery. First fell. Brienne cleaved second, through collarbone. Third retreated, mask cracked, revealing woman with scarred lip. ARYA disarmed, pinned. "Carry warning," ARYA said. "The wolf has grown fangs you forged." She let woman limp away into night. Brienne wiped blade. Debt repaid. Perhaps acceptance earned. ARYA exhaled. Return home. Journey north soaked weeks in spring bloom. At each village, news traveled faster than horses. Faith fracturing, high septon deposed by congregations outraged at hidden armaments. Braavos recalled envoys to mediate trade disputes, not murder. The house of black and white remained silent. ARYA felt threads loosening. In dream, she walked Lawn Hall again. Faces awaited. The kindly man stepped forth, offering mask of her father. ARYA bowed. He said, "A girl found balance through blood and mercy. God is content." Then Hall dissolved into snowfall. Winterfell welcomed them with banners new painted, gates alive with merchants. Sansa met them in courtyard, eyes bright. She embraced Brienne. Then ARYA. Ravens say faith sues for truce with realms. ARYA smiled. They lost their dragons. Jon emerged, ghost-bounding. He clasped Arya's forearm. "You did what armies could not." "It was team effort," she said, eyeing Brienne, Sansa, even Ghost. That night feast filled Great Hall. Bards sang northern dirges, but laughter rose like dawn after storm. ARYA sat beside Sansa, tearing bread, listening. She felt Peace's unfamiliar warmth. When moon stood high, she slipped out to Godswood. She knelt, whispering to Hearttree. Not prayer, just gratitude. Snow melted into rivulets. Footsteps behind. She turned expecting Jon. Found no one. At base of tree lay coin of Braavos. Iron square stamped with many-faced skull. On it etched a single Braavosi word. Debtless. ARYA pocketed coin, smiled. The pack survived, and the shadow within had learned to share the light. Wind rustled needles, carrying scent of pine, hearth smoke, and distant sea. The night felt vast yet full. She breathed deep, and for first time since leaving Braavos, she felt entirely herself. No one and someone, stark and faceless, sword and shield, heart poised between shadow and snow. The world would spin again with wars, betrayals, impossible choices. When it did, she would be ready. Not as tool of gods, but as woman choosing her own list upon her own terms. She touched the bark one last time and whispered, "Valar Dohaeris." The Hearttree's carved eyes seemed to glow, ablaze with starlight and blood. She turned toward the hall where her family waited, where stories spun onward, where winter tempered steel into hope. And Arya Stark, wolf of many paths, mistress of many faces, walked back through falling snow, leaving footprints that filled slowly behind her, as though the very earth conspired to keep her secrets safe until the next dawn called her to run once more beneath boundless sky. Ka. Gray clouds smothered the spring dawn above Winterfell, the air sharp with half-melted snow, and the first faint scent of budding pine. From the battlements, Arya watched sunlight struggle along the horizon, a pale seam barely visible beneath bruised sky. The courtyard below bustled with the purposeful energy of rebuilding. Blacksmith hammers rang like distant drums, stable boys coaxed skittish foals from stalls, still reeking of winter, and old Nan's great-granddaughter scolded a flock of chickens that refused to leave the ash-strewn kitchen yard. Every heartbeat of the castle thrummed with the hum of life resuming, yet Arya felt the weight of stillness slide over her like another layer of iron-gray clouds. She fingered the Braavosi coin resting cold in her palm. Debtless, it proclaimed, etched deep enough to scrape the skin if pressed too tight, and wondered how long absolution from the house of black and white would truly last. The faceless men served balance, not sentiment. Their definition of debtless could hinge on a breath of political wind. She tucked the coin beneath leather jerkin, inhaled the crisp air, and tugged her gloves tighter. A journey waited beyond those walls, she sensed, a concluding thread in a tapestry only half woven. Contemplating flight, little sister? Joan's voice drifted up the stairwell behind her, warm as a hearthstone. She turned, accepting his embrace. Ghost prowled at his side, white muzzle brushing her thigh in silent greeting. "Contemplating storms," she murmured. His dark brows knitted. "Sansa says you sleep little. After everything, Old Town, the faith, the attack here, you've earned a moon's worth of rest." "Rest comes after the next storm," Arya replied. "The faith is staggering but not broken. A snake with its head half severed can still bite." "Da." Jon looked out over the courtyard where Stark guards drilled beside Vale men. "We have allies now. Wyman Manderley pledges galleys, Glover offers 2,000 foot. The Vale stands firm. Cersei Lannister sits on the Iron Throne again." Arya cut in, her tone flat. "She wraps herself in faithful rhetoric now that the High Septon's temple lies shattered. She's named her own puppet High Septon, a man who once kept whorehouses in Lannisport. With wildfire beneath the city and the remnants of the faith militant at her command, she's more dangerous than ever." "Now. Ende." Jon's jaw tightened. "We will deal with her when the North is secure." "We can't wait," Arya insisted. "Every raven from King's Landing describes pilgrims arriving daily for penance and never leaving, coin pouring into coffers, sailors vanishing along the Blackwater. Something brews there, and it isn't piety." Jon studied her face, reading the restless flicker behind her eyes. "You wish to go south?" "I have to," she answered, surprising herself with the conviction lodged inside the words. "I've faced the house, the faith, even my own ghosts. One name remains that the god of death and the god of vengeance both agreed upon. Cersei Lannister. She isn't a symbol or a cog. She's a fracture in the realm's spine. Until she's removed, no balance survives." He exhaled, frosty breath curling. "You'll not ride alone this time. Brienne's sworn to guard Sansa." "And I'll not leave Winterfell undefended," Jon said. "I'll send 10 of my best rangers, men who can move silent as snowfall. If you fail to return within a moon's turn, they'll carry word." "Agreed." Arya smirked. "You're learning how to negotiate with me." He smiled back. Wry. Fond. The grin of a brother who knew every scar on her heart. "Someone has to keep you alive." The journey south unfolded beneath restless skies. Late spring rushed the thaw, spilling torrents down valleys and turning tracks to mire. But Arya and her escort moved swift as migrating geese. The Stark Rangers rode shaggy mountain horses accustomed to narrow passes and sudden slides. By dusk they camped in thickets too tight for larger patrols, their fires buried in pits. Smoke filtered through damp pine boughs. The first days passed in relative quiet until ravens began shadowing them near the neck. Sleek birds larger than northern cousins, with wing feathers clipped in peculiar crescent patterns. Maester Luwin had warned of such messengers. Queen Cersei employed Qyburn's dark-bred ravens to spy from above. Arya loosed 2 arrows and brought down 1 bird. The other shrieked and vanished into clouds, bearing whatever glimpse it had caught. That night, by ember glow, she plucked a strip of parchment from the dead bird's iron leg ring. Written in cipher were 3 symbols: a crown, a star, and a masked face, followed by a string of numbers. She burned the note, though the characters carved themselves into her memory. "Signals?" asked Reich, the lead ranger, a broad man with hair the shade of ravens themselves. "Forces converging," Arya guessed. "Faith loyalists, crown loyalists, and something else." The masked face chilled her. Not Braavosi script, but a Westerosi attempt to mimic the sigil of the House of Black and White. Either Cersei employed impostors, or the house had decided debtless meant free to sell blades. They pressed on. South of Moat Cailin, fields blushed under early poppies, yet farmsteads lay abandoned. Grapevines curled over shattered fences. Smoke curled from chimneys only at night, brief and furtive. Arya's company sheltered in an overgrown sept whose 7 had been defaced, eyes gouged, hands shattered, halos hacked away. On the altar lay dried corn fashioned into a crude wolf head. Rick spat. "Fear breeds strange worship. Fear breeds opportunity," ARYA corrected. Someone's teaching them to fear the north. 2 mornings later, they encountered a column of Faith militant marching north along the King's Road. 200 men in half-plate daubed with 7-pointed stars. They carried no sigils of Queen or High Septon. Instead, black banners bore a single copper coin pierced by a dagger. ARYA stiffened at the design. She ordered the rangers into the trees, yet fate conspired. A horse shied, snapping a branch. Swords flashed, dogs snarled. ARYA strode from cover before blood could spill, cloaked hood low, fingers smoothing a mask she'd taken from Winterfell's storeroom. A plain shepherd woman's visage shaped from soft leather. "Mercy for pilgrims," she called in Braavosi-tainted accent. "My sons grow sick. The cold devours us." She waved at imaginary children behind her. The rangers melted deeper behind trunks. The commander, a burly man sporting a scabbed cheek, studied her. "Prove you bear no northern coin," he growled. She stepped closer, heart steady, offering empty palms tattooed with smudges of airborne soot. "Only hunger." He gestured to subordinates. They shoved past her, ransacking the brush. One discovered a ranger's horse droppings, but no men. ARYA maintained her trembling ruse. Satisfied, the commander tossed a heel of bread at her feet. "The Queen's mercy. Shelter at Harrenhal, where loyal hearts are fed." "Harrenhal," she repeated in cracked whisper. "Seat of the new faith conclave," he boasted. "All sinners may seek absolution there." After bending knee to her grace, they marched on, leaving churned mud. ARYA waited until banners vanished, then signaled the rangers. "Change of course," she said, eyes shining with cold fury. "Harrenhal first." The ruin squatted amid dead reeds like a blackened carcass refusing burial. ARYA had seen Harrenhal only once before, a broken husk haunted by ghost stories. But nothing prepared her for the transformation wrought by Cersei's engineers. Scaffolds climbed tower stumps, patching holes with quarried limestone. Banners draped rebuilt battlements. Serpents of green and crimson laced through golden lions and black stars. Bonfires blazed in the courtyard, where lines of ragged smallfolk knelt before silver-armored septons who touched shoulders with hammers of painted wood. Each peasant then shuffled onward, shackled, toward an inner gate. From a ridge above the lake, ARYA surveyed through Reich's spyglass. "They conscript pilgrims," she muttered. "Arms them, brands them pious, then marches them as fodder." "And the banner with the coin?" Rick asked. ARYA's breath steamed. A mockery of the faceless creed, but could be worse than mockery. She recalled the numbers written beneath pictograms on the Raven's note. Coordinates, tower and cell assignments perhaps. She felt threads converging again. At dusk, she donned the mask of a sellsword, a grizzled man's leathery visage taken from the assassin captured at Winterfell. She and 2 rangers approached the north gate, disguised as caravan guards escorting grain wagons. The gate captain waved them through after cursory question and a coin bribe. Uninterested in sacks he assumed held barley. Beneath canvas, however, lay Reich and another ranger among barrels of lamp oil and flasks of wildfire stolen from an outlying loyalist depot. Inside the courtyard, ARYA's senses sharpened. The air reeked of smoke thick with myrrh. Torches sputtered green hints. Above the godswood stump where once a heart tree burned, a 7-pointed star wrought from iron leered hungrily. She caught sight of a face that froze her blood. Pate the pig boy. Or rather her face worn by another. The man's height, build, and gait differed, but the leather visage matched perfectly, freckles and crooked teeth exact. He escorted lines of pilgrims toward barracks. If the house had sold her faces, who else wore Arya Stark that night? She signaled the rangers. "Stage an accident near kennels." They rolled a barrel, tipping it. Oil glugged across cobbles. Sparks from a brazier caught. Flames roared up. In the confusion, ARYA darted through arches, shadow among shadows. She found the chapel hall, newly rebuilt, incense thick enough to choke. At its heart stood a pyre of green-tinted glass shards. Dragon glass melted in the old town explosion and salvaged for spectacle. Before the pile knelt a woman in elaborate septa's garb, pale silver silk embroidered with roaring lions. Hair shone burnished gold beneath a half veil. Cersei Lannister's eyes closed in false humility as she chanted, voice echoing grand and hollow. Beside her, Qyburn held a scroll, intoning the names of sinner to be cleansed in coming days. Vale lords, Manderly, Baratheon claimants, the false king of the snow. Each name drew exultation from hooded devotees ringing the chapel. Arya's pulse hammered. The woman's features matched Cersei's, but something felt off. Shoulders narrower, voice pitched an octave deeper than memory. A double? Arya scanned pews and balconies. There, in a dim alcove, another Cersei stood partly shrouded, eyes sharp as cats, flanked by armored Lannister guards. 2 queens, one counterfeit to draw blades. Clever. Arya slid closer, weaving through faithful. She loosed garrote wire from sleeve, intending to loop the decoy's throat and reel her behind pillar. Yet she paused, recognizing small tells. The decoy's hands bore calluses of hilt grips. A faint seam of scar at jawline bespoke healed burn. This double could fight. She weighed options. Strike true queen. Too many guards, chaos still. She needed advantage. The wildfire wagon. She retreated, shedding sellsword mask once hidden behind column. Now she was the Lysine servant girl, silent as dust. She passed checkpoints unchallenged, guided by the coin banners etched on cloth. Outside, kennel fire raged. Rangers fended off stable hands while freeing animals. Horses bolted, sowing mayhem. Rick crouched by wagon axle, torch poised above last barrel of wildfire. Arya hissed a signal. He nodded grimly, rolled barrel toward chapel steps, while others herded panicked crowd away. Arya slipped inside again, ascending choir loft. She coiled rope around pillar, ready drop line. Below, ceremony faltered as smoke bled through doors. Qyburn stiffened, sniffing acrid tang. Real Cersei barked command. Guards rushed for exits, too late. The barrel thundered against iron doors, burst with eerie whoomp. Green fire swallowed archway, poured along floor. Tongues of emerald devouring straw mats. Screams erupted. Arya leapt from loft, rope swinging. She landed behind decoy Cersei, garrote flashing. Wire bit throat. She jerked victim backward, twisting into concealed alcove. Surprise queen gurgled, clawed vainly. Arya whispered, Valar Morghulis, and felt life snap. She caught body, lowered gently. Real Cersei fled via side passage. Arya pursued through smoke and falling embers. Hallways twisted, guards coughed, blinded. In a deserted stairwell, Queen confronted her with drawn shortsword, eyes wild. Who are you? Cersei spat, voice hoarse. Arya discarded servant mask, revealing her own face streaked with soot. A ghost you made, she said. Recognition flared. Eddard Stark's daughter grown into living blade. Fear and fury warred within Cersei's gaze. You think killing me will save your pack? More will rise. Perhaps, Arya granted. But not you. They clashed. Cersei's form bore training. She parried thrice, even nicked Arya's shoulder. Yet desperation breeds mistakes. Arya feinted low, pivoted behind, blade sliding between ribs. Crimson blossomed on white silk. Cersei sagged, mouth opening in silent curse. Arya eased her to stone, but death's victory felt hollow. Above them, timbers groaned. Flames crackled. Arya turned to escape, then glimpsed Qyburn dragging a chest bound by iron strap toward postern tunnel. Inside glinted polished steel edges, dragon glass blades shaped like thin crescent spears. She pursued, ignoring pain. Qyburn heard, hissed like viper. You misunderstand my queen's vision, he sneered. These shards cure the world, cleanse whites, wargs, wretches. Save your sermons for the many-faced god, Arya snarled, driving dagger. Qyburn stumbled, chests spilling weapons. She kicked him onto molten embers, smoke swallowed his screams. She seized a slender dragonglass spear, strapped chest lid closed, hefted it to shoulder. Through corridors half collapsed, she raced, heat blistering skin. She burst into courtyard where rangers rallied refugees. Rick guided them toward breach in outer wall. Above, towers seethed green fire like viridian volcanoes. They galloped out as Harrenhal convulsed. Stones glowed red-hot, mortar melting. At safe distance across lake, they watched as Central Keep collapsed in plume of ash and emerald-black smoke. The fortress cursed by Aegon's dragons suffered yet another inferno, and Cersei's would-be religious citadel crumbled to molten ruin. They buried the queen at dawn under thorn bushes far from road. Nameless grave to deny martyrdom. Arya washed her blade in rivulet tinted orange by sunrise. Around her pilgrims huddled under ranger blankets, the brands of faith burned from wrists, replaced with salves. Rake approached, face drawn. "Our men found a Lannister seal hidden in the chest Qyburn carried," he said. 20 scrolls bound for King's Landing. Orders for something called Operation Dawnstar. Arya unrolled first scroll. Diagrams showed dragonglass arrowheads tipped with wildfire resin, meant for scorpions on city walls. Another mapped Raven routes to White Harbor, instructing sabotage of grain fleets. A third described infiltration of Winterfell itself. Stolen faces to sow discord. Murder Sansa, and Jon die. She crushed parchment. "We end this at the root. King's Landing." "No." She shook her head, eyes iced. "Dragonstone. Word is Daenerys Targaryen sails from east with fleet, intent to seize throne again. Operation Dawnstar aims to lure her dragons, kill them, blame North, incite war." Rake whistled low. "Ambitious treachery." Arya hefted chest of dragonglass weapons. "We deliver proof to Dragonstone. Unite dragon and wolf before Lannister venom spreads." The pilgrims begged to follow. Arya hesitated, then set them under Rangers' care. Guide them safe to Riverlands, to villages needing hands. The Rangers would escort to friendly lords, then rejoin. She and Rick selected 3 swift riders to continue. Swift-tongued Edric, whose father fished Blackwater. Mira, silent as dew, and young Tom, whose bow could split a stag's eye. They rode southeast, skirting crownlands aflame with rumor. Smoke from Harrenhal's pyres still darkened the horizon days later. Near Stony Septi, they encountered sellsword bands, selling protection to terrified farmers. Arya disguised herself as wandering Septon, preaching that the mother herself struck Harrenhal as judgment, and that true refuge lay on Dragonstone, where dragons answered only for justice. Fear changed to tentative hope. Some offered food, others songs. At Blackwater Rush, they bribed ferry captain to cross under moonless sky. King's Landing's silhouette shimmered west, a crown of barbed battlements, the red keep torches flickering like angry eyes. But Arya's path aimed east across Stormlands, where rain fell sideways, and thunder drummed cliffs. They reached Weeping Town after nights of relentless squalls. The port brimmed with ships grounded by storms, their masts creaking like dying trees. The inn smelled of wet wool and fear. Arya sat cloaked while Reich scanned crowd. Sailors murmured of black sails bearing 3-headed dragon, seen off Cape Wrath. Some claimed the new queen's fleet already sacked Tarth. Others scoffed, saying dragons froze in storms. An old knight missing half an ear declared, "It ain't Dragon Queen you should fear. Its shadow men come from Bravos wave pockets of faces." He tapped hollow cheek. Arya stiffened. The rumor mill raced ahead of them. At dawn, a horn blast echoed across harbor. Amid rolling fog glided sleek, oared ship. The Targaryen flagship, Blackwind. Scarlet sails snapped, bearing black dragons devouring suns. Aboard, unsullied spearmen stood statuesque. Arya and companions rode skiff under false flag of pomegranate trade. On deck, they sought audience with Queen's Hand, Grey Worm, who inspected them warily. Arya unfolded scrolls of Dawnstar, presenting Lannister seals. Grey Worm's lips thinned, but he remained grimly silent. "We must warn Daenerys Stormborn," Arya urged. Grey Worm shook his head. The Queen sees only envoys of sworn allies. I'm Arya Stark of Winterfell, she said, slipping hood. My brother crowned king in the north. We share enemy. At the name, Grey Worm's eyes flickered with recognition, and perhaps old kindness for northern valor at Winterfell's defense against dead. He ushered them below. In the cabin, Daenerys Targaryen stood by window, silver gold hair rippling in wind, firelight playing on smooth pauldrons shaped like dragon scales. Beside her brooded Missandei and 2 Dothraki screamers. The Queen's violet eyes cut to ARYA, scanning the soot scars, the hardened stance. Stark, she said. Your brother spurned my peace once. Why should I trust you now? ARYA stepped forward. Because the realm bleeds from Cersei's poison, and you hold its cure. But to wield it, you must see the venom. She laid scrolls and chest of dragonglass at Daenerys' feet, explaining Qyburn's scheme, the counterfeit coin banners, stolen faces. She described faith pilgrims conscripted to die in her name, scorpions prepared with wildfire tips, ravens directed to sow lies. Every word etched urgency across the Queen's face. Missandei translated murmurs from unsullied captains dismayed by such treachery. Dothraki spat curses. Daenerys knelt, fingering a dragonglass spear. They would kill my children to break the world anew. Arya met her gaze. We can stop them before ships reach Blackwater. But we need dragonfire against scorpion nests on the city walls. And what of your brother's crown? Daenerys asked softly. Will he bend knee at last? He will defend the living, Arya said. Titles weigh less than gravestones. Fight this threat beside us, and I will speak to him. Then? For a long breath wind keened through porthole. Then Daenerys rose, eyes alight. It is decided. We sail on the tide. The wolf fights beside the dragon. Storms battered Blackwind as fleet veered north around Massey's Hook. Dragons, Drogon and Rhaegal, circled overhead, shrieking exultant defiance at thunder. Arya stood on prow next to Grey Worm, hair whipping. She felt alive, blades singing at hip like heartbeat. Yet inside flickered dread. The house of Black and White's coin remained. Faces stolen continued to surface. Could the house truly be done? Or did another debt accumulate with each step she took? She traced coin's edge, recalling words of kindly man. Balance above all. To strike Cersei, Arya had tipped scales. Now she allied with dragons, heavier yet. What consequence awaited? Sentries cried from Crow's Nest. Black, bearing dagger coin. A flotilla of swift galleys, hulls sheathed in iron plates to resist flame. Sea scorpions bristled on decks, arrowheads glinting sickly green. Operation Dawnstar sailed to meet them. The sea raged, waves rearing white-fanged. Arya watched Daenerys mount Drogon at bow-wave crest, silver hair streaming. The dragon launched, wings beating storm clouds into shreds. Rhaegal followed with deafening roar. Scorpion bolts lanced sky, trailing wildfire sparks. Drogon banked, flame-jetting, melting metal tips before they struck. Bolts hissed into foaming waves, exploding green gouts that hissed and died. Grey Worm barked orders. Unsullied archers loosed cloth-wrapped arrows, soaked in lamp oil. Flames arced, lighting enemy sails. The ironclad galleys struggled to maneuver. Thick plates weighed heavy in high swell. Arya seized a rope, swung to smaller boarding craft with Edric and Maera. They rowed furiously, weaving between debris as Reich led rangers on another boat. Arrows hissed overhead. One enemy galley lurched as helm shattered. Sides opened to boarding. Arya's craft slammed hull. She vaulted, landing on slick deck. Soldiers clad in half-plate with Starcoin sigil rushed. Arya flowed through forms, needle-thin sword flickering. She slipped under swings, hamstrung, pivoted, thrust between gorget and jaw. Blood steamed in rain. Ranger arrows thudded, Tom's bow reaping. She spotted Commander at stern winding scorpion lever. She sprinted, leapt barrels, parried guard's axe, slashed rope anchor, causing Scorpion to slew sideways. Bolts fired wild, impaling mast. Deck shuddered. ARYA plunged dragonglass spear into Commander's chest. Wildfire vial on his belt cracked, igniting heart like lantern. Flames engulfed rigging. She retreated to rail, whistling. Rowboat maneuvered. She dived, surfacing amid wreckage. Above, Drogon loosed a torrent of flame upon flagship. Iron plates glowed red, seams rupturing. A thunderclap of steam and fire erupted. Vessel split like rotten fruit, sinking nose first. Dawnstar convoy broke formation, survivors leaping. Rhaegal herded stragglers into concentrated cluster, then blasted them, water seething. As waves calmed, the sea littered with charred timbers. Black wind approached, lowering rope ladders. ARYA climbed, soaked and trembling, senses ringing. Daenerys stood near gangway, face smeared with soot, eyes bright with grim satisfaction. "It is done," she said. "Not yet," ARYA gasped. "Your dragons must appear innocent. Cersei will claim treachery." "Then," Daenerys nodded, "I will send ravens under my seal and yours. We tell the realm what we prevented." ARYA managed a weary smile. Truth is arrow sharper than Scorpion. They anchored at Dragonstone's harbor. Ravens flew. One to Winterfell, one to Old Town, one to Storm's End where Gendry Baratheon forged alliances. Within days, messages returned. Jon pledged northern support. Old Town's archmesters condemned Queen Cersei's faith conclave. Storm's End offered ships to blockade Blackwater Bay. But darker news slithered inside a scroll, bearing no seal. 6 words only, ink the color of dried blood. "The house recalls its wandering daughter." Arya's hand shook. She tucked message away. Balance demanded price. Damned if she paid by abandoning cause now. She resolved to confront the house after realm secured. Daenerys convened council in Dragonstone's throne room, carved of black fused stone. Jon arrived 5 days later, wind-burned, draped in wolfskin, flanked by Sansa and Brienne. The reunion overshadowed tension. Arya's heart ached with relief at Sansa's embrace. They recounted all since winter's height. An alliance formed. Dragonfire and Northern Steel would march on King's Landing after monsoon season. In return, Daenerys recognized Northern autonomy contingent on aiding realm against supernatural threat. Rumored still lurking beyond shattered walls gaps. Pockets of whites wandering crags. Jon agreed. That night Arya slipped to castle parapet where winds howled. She sensed presence before words. A figure cloaked, face veiled bronze, standing by balustrade overlooking sea. She approached, hand on dagger. "House sends envoy." The veil lifted. Jaqen almond eyes met hers. A girl walks far from doors of death. She exhaled slow. A girl walks where life requires. The ledger shows credit, yet curiosity remains. "What curiosity?" Arya asked. "The wolf chooses pack over God. The God asks, what then is the wolf's price when snow melts and flowers bloom?" "I owe no price," she said, though uncertainty quavered. "You declared debtless. Debt is not merely gold or blood. It is story." He gestured to horizon where dawn blushed. "Return with new face, that of peace. Offer it freely, and house is content." "Many. You want me to give up my identity?" "Not quite. Wear it as cloak. Remove when warmth returns. Use skill to guide realm from shadow, not carve more headstone." Arya considered long. The house offered paradox. By refusing their violence, she satisfied their balance. "I accept," she said at last. "But if realm needs blade again, I choose." Jaqen smiled. "A girl has always chosen." He pressed small vial into her palm. Essence of water dancing, non-lethal. A few drops quell rage in crowds. Balance, use wisely. He stepped onto battlement edge. Sea spray licked wind. He bowed deep. "Valar Dohaeris, Lady of many paths. He leapt, body dissolving in Gull's shadow. Gone. Arya stared at vile glimmering moonlight. She pocketed it. Over summer's cusp, alliances multiplied. Gendry arrived with smiths forging scorpion-proof scale for dragons' bellies. Tyrion sailed from exile in Pentos, bringing coffers of Second Son's gold. Sansa brokered treaties between Vale and Reach remnants. Brienne trained mixed companies of Northmen and Unsullied, melding spear wall with shield wall. Arya worked in silence, slipping through camps, observing sparks of dissent before they flared. Using Jaqen's vial she tamed brawls among rival sellswards, diluting anger in drink. Gossip branded her shadow sister, ghost guardian of fragile peace. On a bright midsummer morning, Daenerys and Jon walked ramparts where new banners, direwolf and dragon entwined, snapped in salt wind. Arya joined them, hands tucked in belt. King's Landing weakens, Jon said. Spies report Qyburn's death left Alchemy Guild in chaos. We march in a fortnight, Daenerys declared. March, Arya echoed, though thoughts stirred. She contemplated infiltration again, slipping ahead to disable final wildfire stores beneath Sept of Baelor's ruins. But perhaps another face could do so. She had learned the power of leading from shadow, not merely stabbing. That night, she wrote letters to every house survivor she trusted. Glover, Manderly, Alice Karstark. She urged restraint, mercy for surrendered foes, rebuilding roads and harvest. She signed each as Arya Stark, and below, a symbol of coin and dagger crossed out. Let the world know vengeance could transform. When horns finally sounded for departure, armies poured onto beaches. Dragons rose, wings eclipsing sun. Arya rode beside Sansa at column head, not behind an assassin's cloak. She still carried needle, still felt thrill of wind, but her gaze lingered on farmers who waved cautiously. Children perched on fences daring to shout joy. Balance indeed. The march revealed scars of war. Burned orchards, toppled septs, skeletal villages. But also new shoots, green barley sprouting, carpenters raising beams, singers in crossroads inns. Peace was fragile, yes, yet alive. Outside King's Landing vast allied host arrayed, while royal banners still flapped defiant on red stone walls. Cersei's corpse no doubt rotted beneath thorns far away, but her council clung to power behind legions of half-starved conscripts. Parley horns summoned hand-picked envoys to ruins of Blackwater Rush Bridge. Arya insisted on attending disguised only in simple leathers. They met Sir Gregor's successor, a hulking knight wearing helm shaped like lion's maw, and Grand Maester Orwyle, greasy with fear. They demanded unconditional surrender. The maester's eyes darted, sweat beading. The Lion Knight growled refusal. Arya stepped forward, produced scrolls of Operation Dawnstar, flinging them at Maester's feet. Your late queen's crimes, she spat, writ in her own hand. Stand aside or face dragons and wolves united. The Lion Knight raised visor, inside haunted blue eyes wavered. Perhaps boy pressed to brutality. He retreated, confused. Orwyle collapsed to knees, pleading safe conduct. The parley ended, gates opened by dusk. Within city walls, Arya walked streets she last fled as orphan chasing cats. Smoke lingered, but torches burned bright. Small folk lined alleys silent. She saw hunger and hope intermingle, fear of dragons tempered by memory of walking dead, further north. In throne room, Daenerys seated herself not upon iron throne but at foot of dais, meeting nobles at eye level. She offered amnesty, demanded pledges of grain to war-torn reaches. She named Tyrion Hand again, appointed Davos Lord of Ships, Sansa Regent of North. Arya watched from pillar shadow, heart steady. When administration settled, she slipped to dungeons beneath Red Keep, guided by memory. She found sealed vaults still containing wildfire casks, unaccounted stores Qyburn left. With Grey Worm's aid, she rolled casks to Seacliff, hurling them into deep water where pressure would collapse them safe. Above, dragon roars echoed across bay, celebration flights. Arya stood, hair whipping, and exhaled. Her tasks, for now, done. Months later, Harvest wagons bristled along roads connecting rebuilt realms. At Winterfell's Godswood, ARYA carved fresh runes into Hearttree. Names of fallen, names of saved. She felt quiet settle in bones like first frost. Sansa ruled north with patient firm hand. Jon served as warden of realms of men, riding between capitals. Dragons patrolled skies yet kept talons from villages. One crisp evening, ARYA prepared pack saddle. Ghost trotted, sniffing. Jon emerged from keep. "Where off to now?" he asked, half teasing, half worried. "East," she said. "Bravos. Then perhaps further. I promised the house a new face, the face of peace. I'll carry witness, see balance kept beyond narrow sea." Jon nodded. "You'll return?" "Always." They clasped arms. Sansa appeared, pressed ribbon-bound tome into ARYA's satchel. Stories old Nan never finished. "For long nights," she said. ARYA smiled. Hugging sister. She mounted sturdy gelding, whistled. Nymeria's shape emerged at treeline, titanic she-wolf with pack trailing. They would accompany her to coast. She glanced back. Winterfell's walls glowed amber under evening sun, banners rippling, direwolf rampant beside dragon scarlet. Hope, standing guard. She breathed in scents of pine and hearth smoke, etched memory. Then she rode, shadow and wolf, toward white ribbon of road gleaming under stars. The journey ahead promised no tidy ending, only endless circles of wind and water, faces and places, stories seeking balance. Yet she carried more than blades now. She carried trust, family, and the certainty that the girl who once whispered a kill list now spoke a vow to guard life as fiercely as she'd hunted death. And somewhere, in the vast hush between heartbeats, the many-faced god watched, and, perhaps, in ways mortals might never fathom, smiled.